Nara is the city where Japan packed its best 8th century architecture into one place, then added 1,000 sacred deer for chaos. 3 days lets you actually see it, but only if you don't burn your best hours queuing for the wrong temple at the wrong time. I mapped out the whole 3-day route in a template so you can grab it. The link's in the description. Nara rewards you any season: cherry blossoms in spring, red maples in autumn, and in winter you'll have some of these temples nearly to yourself. You're opening with a postcard pagoda, a park full of deer that have figured out how humans work, and a bronze Buddha the size of a building. Kōfuku-ji was the personal temple of the Fujiwara clan, the family that basically ran Japan for centuries, so the scale here reflects real political ambition. That 5-story pagoda up front, rebuilt in 1426, is the second tallest in Japan, and the reason every Nara postcard looks the way it does. The real reason to go inside is the National Treasure Museum, where a statue called Asura 3 faces 6 arms, quietly haunting, has its own fan club, and receives fan mail. Get here when the doors open at 9 because the Asura deserves to be seen in near silence, and by late morning the school groups change that completely. Step out of Kōfuku-ji and you're already in Nara Park 6x60 hectares, where over 1,300 sacred Sika deer roam free, because Shinto tradition says they're messengers of the gods. These deer have been protected since the 8th century, and in that time they figured out that bowing gets them crackers, so they bow, it's adorable, and then they eat your map. Walk away from the main cracker vendors before you start feeding, because the deer near the stalls are the pushiest. Up toward the hills, they're calmer, and the whole thing feels less transactional. The park is the connective tissue between today's stops. Kōfuku-ji sits on one edge, Tōdai-ji sits inside it, so you'll be among deer whether you plan to be or not. Tōdai-ji is Japan showing off a 15-meter bronze Buddha inside a wooden hall that held the title of world's largest wooden building, and this is the smaller reconstruction. The original hall was a third bigger, and the project nearly bankrupted the country, which tells you how important this Buddha was to the people who commissioned it. At the back of the hall, there's a hole in a massive pillar, supposedly the size of the Buddha's nostril, and squeezing through is said to grant enlightenment. Kids manage it. Adults get stuck. Walk up the hill, behind the main hall, to the free Nijatsuro terrace, because almost nobody goes up there, and the view over all of Nara is worth every extra step. Yesterday was monuments. Today is about looking closely. 2 gardens that teach you how the Japanese think about space. Then an old merchant quarter where regular people actually lived. Right next to the famous paid garden in Nara is another garden that's free and nearly empty, because most visitors walk straight past without realizing it's there. Yoshikien gives you 3 distinct Japanese garden styles in one compact site: a pond garden, a moss garden, and a tea ceremony garden, basically a free masterclass in landscape design. The moss stays green year-round, and winter frost on the pond is quietly beautiful, with bare maple branches revealing the underlying structure of everything. Do this one first because it's free and quick, then walk next door to Isuien with your eye already tuned to how Japanese gardens work. Isuien is the garden that teaches you a concept called shake borrowed scenery, where Tōdai-ji's gate in the distance isn't a coincidence, it's the entire design. Remove that gate from the background and the garden literally stops working as a composition. The view of it through the tree line is what makes this place extraordinary. The front garden is Edo era, the back is Meiji, so you're walking through 2 centuries of landscape philosophy in one loop, and the path is designed to reveal views one at a time. Walk the route in order, sit at the tea house, look back at what you just passed through, then head into Naramachi, because after all this designed beauty, you need to see the lived-in version. Naramachi is a preserved Edo period merchant quarter where narrow streets are lined with traditional machiya townhouses, wooden storefronts, weathered silver gray, deep interiors, zero monumentality. The townhouses are narrow up front and deep in the back because property was taxed by street frontage, so merchants built thin and saved money, accidentally creating beautiful architecture. Wander the lanes, duck into craft shops, and find kakenoha sushi wrapped in persimmon leaves, which is a Nara specialty you won't find done this well anywhere else. Late afternoon light catches those wooden facades beautifully, but some shops close by 5, so arrive with enough time to actually go inside things. Your last day goes to the oldest wooden buildings on Earth, then opens up to a grassy hilltop panorama, and ends with a pagoda reflected in still water. Hōryū-ji sits in a quiet suburb outside central Nara and contains wooden structures that have stood for over 1,300 years. These predate almost every famous building in Europe. The joinery uses no nails at all. Interlocking wood joints flex with earthquakes, which is a big reason these buildings survived while newer ones around them fell. Founded in 607 by Prince Shotoku, who essentially brought Buddhism to Japan, it was the country's first UNESCO inscription, and somehow most day trippers never make the trip out here. Budget at least half a day because it's a train ride plus a 20-minute walk from the station. And the western precinct, where the oldest structures sit, deserves your full attention. Mount Wakakusa is a 342-meter grassy hill behind Nara Park with a panoramic view of the entire city laid out below you like a diorama. Every January since the Edo period, they set the whole hillside on fire originally because 3 temples couldn't agree on a boundary, so they burned it to settle the argument and just never stopped. It's a gentle 20-minute hike up through open grass. And after 2.5 days under temple roofs, the wind and the wide sky feel like a release. If you're visiting between mid-December and mid-March, the mountain is closed. Check opening dates before you count on this stop, because it may need to be swapped for something closer to town. Sarusawa Pond is a small ornamental pond ringed by willow trees, 5 minutes from the station, that produces the classic reflected pagoda image you've probably seen in photographs of Nara. This stop exists because of golden hour, when the low sun catches the Kōfuku-ji pagoda and doubles it on the water, which is why photographers gather at the far side of the pond. Wind kills the reflection, so if it's breezy, wait for a calm moment. When the water goes still, the whole pagoda floats upside down like it's performing. You're walking toward the station anyway, and the pagoda mirrored in the pond at sunset is the final frame 3 days of temples distilled into one quiet image. Nara is what happens when a city builds temples to match imperial ambition, lets the deer take over the park, and gives the whole thing 13 centuries to mellow. I put the full 3-day route with every stop and a map view into an editable template. The link's in the description and the pinned comment. Let me know which stop you'd add or skip, or drop your Nara plans in the comments. I read all of them.